separated. So as long as we have a separation within the file, we can combine different types. So anytime I want to have an erosion control type of thing, I bring up this degen, everything I need is there. And then I have over here utilities, and somebody, so this is actually referencing a real project. Somebody has recently gone in and added a raster reference to the back of my utility, and right away has recently edited theirs, so we'll just refresh that. Reload. So here's utility drawing. So we'll keep all of it separate, and then combine it all up. We'll come over and basically usually we'll take one of the main drawings, the roadway drawing, with the geometry, and we lay out all the match lines and organize the borders around the project. And we've been using these NDL 1, 2, and 3 levels, and we have 6 of them. The idea is we found that that's all we really needed. If it's a long linear project, sometimes we only get away with 2. We do 1, then 2, then 1, then 2, then 1, then 2, and it makes it easier rather than having separate levels as you go along, and then it just makes it, we found that we only need those 6. And even on the most complicated jobs, an intersection, you can get away with usually 4. So, and then inside the border file, there is certain types of annotations that we would like to see, and certain types we wouldn't. Now, we don't want to see anything that should have been in these files, any of the topographic type stuff. But we're going to want to see all the match line type information, the clip boundaries. Also, we have 2 methods of doing this, but the sheet type annotation. So these are the annotations that go from match line to match line. And those are sometimes in the border files. Other times they might be in the NU1 file or the utility file. But either way is acceptable because we know where it would be. The key is we need to know where the stuff is, and if we have 2 spots, as long as we know they're in either spot, we'll find it. We don't want to have it in a 3rd spot, like for instance a sheet model, which nobody's going to look at for actual data, or shouldn't be in our case. So these are I call these sheet type annotations. They are basically match line to match line callouts, because you'll have guardrail on all the sheets and you'll define the station here. So you can see from this is a reference of a border file. I can actually open that border file up in a minute and we'll take a real look at it. We take that border file, we lay it all out, and this border file, just like this, the borders exactly where they are, potentially would be used for all the other layouts, all the erosion control, all the utilities, including the right-of-way. And in right-of-way's case, they will reference this one directly. So they will match exactly. In some of the erosion control or stuff like that, what we would do is take a copy of the border file, call it the ERO border file. We wouldn't edit it. We would leave it exactly as it is so they match exactly. But that's one difference. Right-of-way is going to use it as is exactly. And some of the other erosion and utilities will take a copy of it. Now they could reference it either way, but sometimes it gives you a little more flexibility to copy it, but also leading you down the road where you can get in trouble if things change. But they don't. Once we lay that border file down, we never move it. There's a certain phase of a job, and that border file does not change, hopefully. And then new to MicroStation, relatively new, I guess, is sheet models. So we'll take all these borders and we'll turn them all into sheet models. So within these sheet models, there is no graphics at all. That's the key to our sheet models. We can't have design stuff in the sheet models. Things will get lost. And I've seen, it happens. I know, you go into a DGN and you need an annotation, so you throw it in the first sheet. It just seems to sit there. But it's easy to lose it, so we just have to keep track of that pretty well. Otherwise, right-of-way is going to miss it because they're not going to look in the sheet models, and other people even within design might miss it. If you're in your erosion control, you might be missing something that somebody added into your regular layout. So this is how this job was organized into sheet models. Same with the erosion control. We'll go into this ERO border file and we'll create all these sheet models, and they'll define the layout. They're for plotting only. There's no graphics in them. I guess I can find out where I am on the PowerPoint here. I don't get too far off track. And so before I go into that, I'm going to go back over here into that DGN again. Let's go into that file, that border file directly. So here I reference everything up just to kind of hoping maybe if anybody had questions, I have a quick access to everything. It's not how we would typically do a project. But if I go into the border, here's all the layouts. They're all in their own DGNs, all the erosion control. Oh, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I put that gray shading just to make it stand out. Here's all the erosion control, which we can't see because they're off over here. They're all coming on. You can see there's the example border laid out over. So this is everything together. So let's go into that border file directly. We're going to expand. All right. So now we have all of our data types. If I turn everything off. And so this one is a combined all on. That probably shouldn't be there. So here's a border file. This one was a combined title sheet at one time. Something happened to it. Oh, there it is. So it should be there. Oh, there's the title sheet. This one has a combined border and title sheet together. So it can be done like that. It just has to be separated out properly. So all of this is on one level, off by. I can turn it all off, and then I have my stationing. So that's title sheet. So there's a special level for title sheet stationing. You can turn off. So here's the typical border file. And these are just construction notes so that people, when they go into this file, know how this file was put together. So it says sheet models were used. We've already seen how this is kind of laid out. And now I can go in, look at my references. I want to see the new and proposed features. I want to see the topo. I want to see the survey. And I can turn off the contours if I don't want those. And I can turn on some right away. Now we start to sheet it up. So I can go over to, say, sheet models, look at layout 1. And here it is. So this is where it gets plotted. If I turn off all the references in here, there should be no graphics, except for what we'll need is this sheet boundary itself. So MicroStation provides a sheet boundary. So rather than try to move it around, because it's not an easy thing to move, you got a couple different steps to move it around. Usually I just draw a shape right where I need it to be and forget MicroStation. It's useful, but you can also make your own. And this is just to define the sheet plotting boundary. So, back over to the default model. So I have one of those for every one, including the sheet model, or the title sheet. So back over to the default. This is the key that we find a lot of problems with. Setting up of that border file, maintaining of the border file, what's supposed to be in it, what's not supposed to be in it. And this might be a good time for questions. Okay. Any questions here? Let's move into, did I cover everything you think, Paul? Did I miss anything?
The only thing is that in your depiction on the screen that's up there now, those aren't the locations of the actual final models, sheet models. Or is that your intent is to put them in a place like that?
Nope.
So that's good. I don't want anybody to think that they're going to make a big grid and show the sheet models.
So, good point is that diagram was just made for the presentation. All the sheet models are spatial. I covered that somewhere later, I think, to talk about it, but we can show it now. Because if I go into a sheet model, layout, and I data point, the coordinates I see on the bottom of the screen are Vermont State Plane coordinates. If I do a rotate view, unrotated, that's the north, that's north. And this has a couple of different things. One is, it's good to have our border files in the right location, our DGNs all in the right location. And so we want our sheet models to be in the right location if possible. And then if we create PDFs from these, and we set the PDFs up right, the PDFs will also be spatial. So if I plotted this drawing and then I basically reference the PDF into the background, it's going to come in the right spot. And if you bring it into GIS or you have Adobe Pro and you bring it out there with a GPS hooked up to it, you're going to see a little icon on the screen where you are in true, so it has a lot of benefits down the road to have these geospatial PDFs or plan sets. One is the agency's spending quite a bit of money going back and geo-referencing all of our past scanned-in plan sets. So we don't want to be continuing to create that problem where we have a bunch of just 0-0 based paper plans. All of our PDFs can be spatial, just a couple of toggles. It's really not that difficult. And there was a time when we kind of just relied on MicroStation's plot area. We said, well, this is how they set up sheet models. We want to go with their border, which is at the 0-0 and everything like that. But that kind of ruins the spatial quality of the sheet models. They do have the ability to move them around. If you want to play with some of these, you can actually come in and define it, move it around, and rotate it. But it's not it's a little bit of a process to get it in there. 2-3 steps to do it right. So it's easier just to draw shape. Or actually, in some cases, I see everybody doing that. They actually draw the actual where their margins would be. And our margins are defined within the plot setting, so we don't need that. But these are spatial. All of them are where they're supposed to be. And they're all, so when you reference up, the trick there is, let me go back here. When you reference up all your files, don't move your files to your border. Just rotate your view and to your border and everything, plot it right where it's supposed to be. Because nothing's moved. Everything's 0-0, all spatial. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. And that's true for everything. Erosion control, right away. All of our plans can be spatial until you get into something like substructure and superstructure details, and it's all free for all. Okay, into the title sheet a little bit. Title sheet has a lot of the same properties as the border file. It's key to have all the data referenced in, not a lot of extra graphics. One thing that we noticed doesn't seem to happen is internally we always reference the title sheet. So we have a title DGN. It's referenced directly off the network as a standard. And then everything is added into the drawing. So everything in here that's black is going to come from the agency title sheet as reference. This is just another diagram to show how it might be put together. I have the real one we can go to in a second. Bring up some references. So the survey data, it's all purple in here. It's all coming directly from the survey drawing. Again, still spatial. All that green information, that's really the only thing new that we show is the alignment. Title sheet, so that's all coming directly from a reference that's sitting on our server. And we never modify it. Everything we need should be there. Just turn it on and off as you need it. And I'll go over that a little bit in a second. And then legend, that's just for this demonstration purpose to show. So if I turn off everything in here, this is the only thing that's in the title sheet, assuming you have a separate title sheet from your border. So this is how it would be if it were separate. So all of this can be turned off in one shot. And the only thing left is the stationing. And there we go. So that's one thing that we notice is a lot of times the title sheet is actually modified. And so the title sheet has gotten a little more complicated over the past couple of years where we've added in all these different sections over here where the different directors can all use the same title sheet, right away can use the same title sheet, and it's all level dependent where you can turn it on and off. So let me just go in and see if I can show it from here. So there is, let's go to the other one where we can see colors. So I'll go to the actual title sheet. Structures. So these are all of our plan set DGNs. Title. Okay, so if I'm looking at the title sheet, all the directors have all their own levels, and you can turn everything on, you get a bunch of stuff. So every level here is a director, and the naming convention we could come up with some, but PDD is the first one. You can turn that one off, and you can get PPID, and you can get the Director of Operations, and this is a level that we put in there. So